Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, February the 2nd, 2021, and we are continuing to use strategies that we've already learned to help us solve multiple step word problems. It's important that we learn how to do multiple step word problems because we may be faced with certain situations in the real world setting that would require us to do a math operation prior to doing another one. So it's really important that we think about strategies we've already learned to solve addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and use those to help us as we are trying to solve those two-step problems. So again, we're thinking about multiple step word problems. How can we write an equation with variables to solve two question problems? And we've got to think about the vocabulary for variables. What does that mean? And we'll talk a little bit more about that again today. Our learning target or learning objective for today is I will solve multiple step word problems using strategies, and I'm going to add that, using strategies we already know. And the purpose for us will be to use variables to represent numbers that we need to find. So remember that a variable can be used for numbers that we don't know the answer yet. We don't know the value of them yet. And we're going to be trying to solve for that. So we're going to start out with this problem. And the problem says that Carson had 114 baseball cards. He kept 10 and shared the rest equally among 8 friends. How many baseball cards did each friend get? Now, we've got to think about what information this problem is giving us. So when I read that problem again, now I just read it to get the general gist of the problem, but I'm going to read it again to really decide what information I need to know here. Carson had 114 baseball cards. He kept 10 of them. What do I know now about this problem? What kind of operation would I need to do, or would I even need to do one to see how many cards that he has left, that he's going to do something else with? So I've got to think about what operation is going to take place. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to show you the pictures of those tape diagrams or the strip diagrams, whatever you want to call them, because they call them both. I'm going to show you pictures of that and how it would look for you to know what operation is going to take place. But think about it. If he kept 10 of them, what operation is going to tell me how many he has left? Hopefully, you said subtraction here. Now, the rest of the problem, so we have to do something there. So the rest of the problem is saying, and he shared the rest equally among 8 friends. So now we know that there's something else going to take place. So we know that he's got some baseball cards left, and he's going to share them equally among 8 of his friends. How many baseball cards did each friend get? So we've got to think about how we could write equations for both of those and what that would look like using that strip diagram. So the first thing that we're going to do is write equations. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a text box here so that I can write an equation that would work for the first part of this problem. Now remember, our goal is to think about what equation is going to work for the first one. So I know that he has 114 baseball cards. And he keeps 10 of them. So if you have 114 and you're keeping 10, then to get the remainder of what's left, I'm going to have to subtract. So I want to find out what that answer is first, and I'm just going to put B for cards to share, because that's what's going to happen here. He's going to share what's left, okay? So B is going to represent the cards to share, or the cards that are left. And then I'm going to write another equation, and this time this equation is going to be an equation to represent what amount he's going to share. So I'm going to know, after I solve this problem, that, and I'm going to just type in a number here that isn't going to match, or just give you some spaces, because we know that we're going to be dividing here. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a division sign because I know that I'm going to be dividing here. And remember, you can type those in and it'll give you that pretty little sign, and you don't have to try to figure out how to make one. So I'm going to use division, and I'm going to be able to put that here. So I'm going to divide, and I know that I'm dividing by 8 friends, and that should equal B. I'm going to do B again, cards shared. It's not going to be shared equally. Cards given, to friends, because that's what we're looking for. How many cards did each friend get? Now, we've got to do this operation first. We have to know what 114 minus 10 equals. So here I'm going to put B is equal to 110, because I know that 114 minus 10 is going to leave me 104. I'm sorry. 104, because I'm taking that 10 away. Now, I know what I have to put down here now. I am dividing the remainder of those cards that he had left by 8. So now I'm dividing by 8 in this problem. I've got to find out B, the cards given to his friends that's shared equally. Or I could have changed this. I think this sounds better, shared equally, cards shared equally. Because I want to know how many each friend got. And let's just put cards shared equally. All right, so now I have to try to find out what 104 divided by 8 equals. Now here's where we can use those strategies we know. We've already talked about how we can use multiplication to help us. So those of you that are studying and taking your test each day, this division is going to become easier for you because you're already going to know those facts and you can relate it to that multiplication fact. But those of you that are not taking the test, you're going to have to use those other strategies I've taught you for division. You're going to have to draw equal groups. You're going to have to draw an array. You're going to have to use repeated subtraction to help you. So let's think about how we could use an array or equal groups or repeated subtraction to help us. I can start subtracting 8 from 104 until I have nothing left or something less than 8. Or I could draw 8 groups and start passing out that 104 cards and putting dots in there to show that. Or I can do an array where I know that there are 8 rows, and then I'm going to start filling those rows up until I have 104 altogether. So you can use those strategies to help you. Think about how that's going to be answered. So I already know that B in this case is going to equal 13. B is going to equal 13. And I know this because I know that 8 times 12 is 96. So it made it easier for me to think about adding 8 more to get 104. So look how much that multiplication knowledge helped me. So if you're not taking your test, you need to be in there taking that test because it's going to be important for you. Let's go ahead and look at the next picture, because the next picture is going to tell us how that would look in that tape diagram or strip diagram. And this is going to let us know, how do we determine what operations are needed to complete the problem? So let's look at this picture here. This picture tells me that the total is going to be at the top. So remember, this bar that goes all the way across means the total. Do I know the total amount? If I know the total amount, then these two pieces down here equal the parts. It equals the parts that I will either use to solve the problem, or part of it will be used to solve the problem. That's when I've got to come down and actually look at it with numbers. So let's go to the problem that we had about Carson. We knew that he had 114 cards. We knew one part of that was 10. But we didn't know the cards shared. We didn't know the amount of the cards shared. So we were looking for that number. So when we see a strip diagram or a tape diagram that looks like this, and we have one of the parts and we have the total, then we know we're going to be subtracting. We know that we're going to be subtracting here. Oops. Now, if we're over here, now we're looking at, okay, we know the total. We know the total number of cards. We also see down here that we're looking for how many each friend gets, but we don't know how many. We know that there's 8 friends, and that's what these boxes stand for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We know 8 friends are going to share those, but we don't know how many cards each friend is going to get. So if we know the total and we know a part, we know that 8 is the part, then we're going to use division. So in these two cases, these problems mean subtraction and division. Now, let's go down here and look. If we don't know the total, and we see that we have 2 parts here, we can put those 2 parts together with addition and get an answer. If I know that I have 8, and let's look at that, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I know that there's 13 in each of those 8, I can use multiplication to get the total. Now this is where you've got to decide, if you're given a picture like this, you've got to decide what operation is needed. So if I'm looking for the total, and I'll go ahead and type that here so you can see that. If I'm looking for the total, I'm going to use either multiplication or addition. But if I know the total, I'm going to be using either subtraction or division. So I'm going to put looking for total. Up here, basically, I'm looking for a part. So if I'm looking for a part, then I know I'm going to be using division or subtraction. Because here, I need the part that I can add to 10 to get 114. Here, I need the part that I can multiply times 8 to get 104. So if I'm looking for a part, I'm going to subtract or divide. If I'm looking for a total, I'm going to add or multiply. So keep that in mind as you're working through these problems, because you're going to be able to use the strategies. Like I said, you can either use repeated addition for multiplication, groups, or an array. For division, you can use repeated subtraction, basic multiplication facts, groups, or an array. For subtraction, you can use just your knowledge of regular subtraction using the strategies that we've learned. And then addition in the same way. We can think about that using those partial sums, partial difference to help you. There's all kinds of methods that you can use for subtraction and addition as well that we've already learned this year. So let's review our vocabulary for today. Our vocabulary for today is variable. It's a letter or a symbol that we can use to represent an unknown amount. Remember, it can represent many different numbers. As you go into the upper grades, you're going to see that it could represent more than one answer. That's interesting. So keep that in mind. A variable is just there, and it changes based on the numbers in the problem. So if I change the numbers up, then my variable will change also, because it is a dependent. It depends on what's changing. So it's just like the weather. If I am going to go swimming today, what do you think? If I thought it was going to be sunny and then we ended up with the weather we have today, is that going to change whether I go swimming or not? Absolutely, because I can't swim now. So the variables changed, the weather changed. So the numbers can also change just like that and change what the variable may become. So keep that in mind, that the variable can change based on the numbers if you think about the problem that we did yesterday. All right, so hopefully this has helped you. If you have any questions, please ask me, and please join for your multiplication test, because those people that are using multiplication with division, it's becoming much easier for you. So please come to those, because it's really important that you learn those facts and are studying those facts each day. And again, if you have any questions, you can hop back on the whole group, Google Meet, and we can help you. Today, I want you to mention the word snow in the lesson work if you watch this video. I hope everybody has an awesome day. See ya.